A history scarred by conflict, mistrust, and uneasy borders. And yet against all odds a decision has been made. Greece has accepted Turkey's offer. But this isn't just diplomacy. It's a gamble that could redefine the Eastern Mediterranean. Will this usher in a new era of unity? Or awaken old ghosts buried beneath the Aegean Sea? Because when ancient enemies shake hands, the world holds its breath. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Because what you're about to hear might just change everything. Now, let's break it down. A century of division, from hatred to hope? The weight of history pressed down on this fragile moment, decades of animosity etched in blood and memory separated Greece and Turkey. The echoes of the Greco-Turkish War, a brutal conflict that ended in forced population exchanges, still reverberated through both societies. The division of Cyprus, a scar that ran deep through the Eastern Mediterranean, left behind ghost towns and a legacy of mistrust. Even the skies above the Aegean, once a shared space, became a stage for tense aerial encounters. For generations, children learned to view the other not as a fellow inhabitant of this ancient land, but as an inherent enemy. Diplomatic channels, meant to bridge divides, often became conduits for further suspicion, strained in times of calm and threatening to shatter entirely during moments of crisis. Yet, in the year 2025, an unlikely convergence occurred. Both nations found themselves in a precarious position, their economies weakened by global pressures and internal divisions, while external forces increasingly demanded stability in this strategically vital corner of the world. Could the weight of this shared history finally give way to the promise of a shared future? The answer hung heavy in the air. The offer, what did Turkey propose? The proposal from Ankara arrived like a thunderclap, shattering the long-held assumptions of intractable conflict. It was not a tentative gesture, but a comprehensive framework designed to fundamentally reshape the relationship between the two nations. At its heart lay the promise of economic partnership, joint exploration and development of the resource-rich maritime zones that had long been a source of contention. This extended to shared rights in the potentially vast energy reserves beneath the waves, a prospect that held immense economic potential for both sides. But the offer went further, venturing into the sensitive realm of security with a proposal for a new bilateral defense cooperation mechanism. This suggested a willingness to move beyond mutual suspicion towards a degree of joint security planning. And then came the truly unexpected element, a conditional offer of formal recognition of shared sovereignty over the numerous contested islets scattered across the Aegean. The condition? Their complete demilitarization, a move that would dramatically alter the strategic landscape. The world watched, stunned, as the implications of this audacious proposal began to sink in. And then, the unthinkable happened. Athens, after careful consideration, uttered the affirmative. Months of clandestine talks, shielded from public scrutiny, had laid the groundwork for this seismic shift. Prime Minister Leonidas and President Balta emerged, their smiles carefully calibrated for the cameras. Yet a lingering question remained. Was this a genuine embrace of reconciliation? Or simply a pragmatic response to pressing political and economic realities? The domestic backlash, turmoil at home. The news from Athens ignited a firestorm of public reaction, but not the celebratory cheers one might expect after such a historic breakthrough. Instead, the streets filled with the sounds of protest and the faces of confusion. Thousands of Greeks poured into Syntagma Square, the symbolic heart of the nation, their voices raised in anger and disbelief. For many, this agreement felt like a profound betrayal of national identity and historical memory. Nationalist groups, long vocal in their opposition to any concessions to Turkey, decried the deal as a sellout. Veterans, who had dedicated their lives to defending the nation against its traditional adversary, demanded answers, questioning the rationale behind such a dramatic shift in policy. Across the Aegean, in Ankara, the initial mood was one of cautious optimism, tinged with a degree of apprehension. While some hailed the agreement as a bold step towards regional stability and economic prosperity, others viewed it with deep suspicion. Turkish hardliners, deeply entrenched in their nationalist views, accused the government of conceding too much to Greece. The powerful military, a traditionally influential force in Turkish politics, maintained a quiet watch. carefully assessing the potential impact of the new power dynamics on their strategic posture and regional influence. In both capitals, the leaders faced a formidable challenge: how to convince their respective populations, deeply scarred by generations of conflict, that this new path towards peace was not only necessary but also just. Europe reacts: division or unity? The groundbreaking agreement sent ripples of shock and speculation throughout the capitals of Europe. Brussels, the center of the European Union, found itself grappling with a complex and multifaceted response. In Berlin, the reaction was largely positive, with the German government quick to praise the deal as a crucial step towards stability in a volatile region. This enthusiasm likely stemmed from Germany's strong economic ties to both nations and its desire for a unified European approach to the Eastern Mediterranean. However, across the Rhine and Paris, the mood was considerably more skeptical. France, traditionally assertive in its foreign policy and wary of any shifts that could alter the balance of power, viewed the agreement with a degree of caution, perhaps concerned about its implications for French influence in the region. The island nation of Cyprus, a long-standing member of the EU with its own painful history of division, reacted with profound concern, fearing that this new rapprochement between Athens and Ankara could further marginalize its own unresolved conflict. Within NATO, an organization long plagued by the tensions between its Greek and Turkish members, the news was met with a collective sigh of relief. The prospect of greater unity between these two key allies was seen as a significant boost to the alliance's overall strength and cohesion. For the European Union as a whole, the agreement presented a complex equation. It offered the tantalizing prospect of stability in a region crucial for energy security and trade, potentially unlocking vital corridors and fostering economic growth. Yet, this opportunity came with a dilemma: how to reconcile this new reality with long-standing principles of solidarity and existing alliances, particularly concerning Cyprus. The Eastern Mediterranean, once again, found itself at the forefront of European foreign policy considerations, demanding careful navigation of its intricate geopolitical landscape. Energy and economy, the real motivator? Beneath the veneer of diplomatic pronouncements and political maneuvering lay a powerful, undeniable driving force: energy. The Eastern Mediterranean, long known for its historical significance, held a secret beneath its waves: billions of cubic meters of untapped natural gas. These vast reserves represented a potential game-changer, not only for Greece and Turkey, but also for the wider European continent, offering a tantalizing prospect of reducing its reliance on Russian energy supplies. The announcement of a joint exploration agreement between Athens and Ankara sent immediate shockwaves through global energy markets. Within days, major international energy corporations like ExxonMobil and Total, alongside Turkey's national oil company, Turkish Petroleum, began mobilizing resources, eager to stake their claim in this potentially lucrative new frontier. Discussions about the construction of new pipelines, capable of transporting this precious resource to European markets, commenced with urgency. Ports along the coasts of both nations began preparations for significant expansion, anticipating the influx of vessels and infrastructure required for the energy boom. However, the pursuit of energy wealth is rarely without its complexities. The presence of oil rigs and exploration vessels inevitably brings with it the need for security, raising the specter of increased naval presence and potential military posturing. And with the promise of immense wealth comes the potential for shifting power dynamics, both within the region and on the global stage. The Eastern Mediterranean, therefore, was revealed to be more than just a body of water separating two nations. It was a strategic chessboard where the stakes were not just political, but also economic and, potentially, imperial. What about Cyprus? Amidst the flurry of diplomatic activity and the promise of a new era between Greece and Turkey, a crucial question remained unanswered, hanging like a dark cloud over the celebrations. What about Cyprus? The island, tragically divided since the Turkish intervention of 1974, stood as a stark reminder of the deep-seated animosity that had long characterized the relationship between the two mainland nations. Turkey recognized the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a state recognized only by Ankara, while Greece steadfastly supported the internationally recognized Republic of Cyprus in the south. For decades, diplomatic efforts to bridge this divide had yielded little progress, with both sides remaining firmly entrenched in their positions. And in the text of the new groundbreaking agreement between Greece and Turkey, Cyprus was conspicuously absent. The island, a member of the European Union, had been excluded from the bilateral deal. The reaction in Nicosia was swift and furious. Protests erupted across the capital, with Cypriots expressing their outrage and a sense of betrayal. The Cypriot president issued a scathing statement, condemning the agreement as a violation of European solidarity and a disregard for the long-suffering people of Cyprus. UN peacekeepers, stationed along the tense green line that bisects the island, reported a noticeable increase in tensions and heightened military activity on both sides. A palpable fear began to spread. While Greece and Turkey embarked on a new chapter of cooperation, Cyprus, the very symbol of their past conflict, might be left behind once again, its future uncertain and its wounds left to fester. Military implications. Unity or strategy? Beneath the carefully crafted language of diplomatic reconciliation, a complex military calculus was at play. The Defense Cooperation Clause within the agreement hinted at a potential shift in the security landscape of the Aegean and the Eastern Mediterranean. It called for the establishment of limited joint naval patrols, a move that could foster greater understanding and coordination between the two navies. Intelligence sharing, a highly sensitive area, was also proposed, suggesting a willingness to trust each other with crucial security information. Furthermore, the agreement included the establishment of crisis de-escalation hotlines, designed to prevent misunderstandings and manage potential conflicts before they escalated. But did these measures truly signify a move towards lasting peace, or were they merely a tactical ceasefire, a strategic pause in a long-standing rivalry? The reality on the ground remained largely unchanged. The Aegean Sea, despite the diplomatic overtures, remained heavily armed, with significant troop deployments on both sides of the border. Military drills, a frequent source of tension in the past, continued, albeit under a new set of agreed-upon rules designed to minimize the risk of accidental conflict. What had changed was not necessarily the military hardware or the strategic deployments, but rather the narrative. For the first time in decades, Greek and Turkish military officers found themselves sitting together in joint briefings, sharing information and building lines of communication. A hotline, once a symbol of potential escalation, now rang, and someone on the other end, a former adversary, actually picked up. In this small act of communication, a flicker of hope, cautious and undeniably fragile, began to emerge in the often turbulent waters of the Aegean. The global chessboard. US, Russia, and China weigh in. The unfolding drama in the Eastern Mediterranean did not go unnoticed by the world's major powers. Washington, long a key player in the region and a strong supporter of NATO unity, cautiously welcomed the agreement, viewing it as a potentially significant step towards regional stability and a positive development for the alliance. However, Moscow, with its own strategic interests in the Eastern Mediterranean and its complex relationship with both Greece and Turkey, viewed the rapprochement with a degree of suspicion. The prospect of a stronger, more unified NATO presence in the region was unlikely to be met with enthusiasm in the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Beijing, ever strategic and often silent in its approach to international affairs, reacted in its own unique way. Almost overnight, reports began to surface of increased Chinese investment in infrastructure projects across the Eastern Mediterranean, subtly positioning itself to capitalize on any potential economic benefits arising from the newfound stability. This was no longer simply a matter of two neighboring nations resolving their differences. The agreement had triggered a significant shift in the global balance of power, transforming the Eastern Mediterranean into a crucial proving ground, not just for vast energy resources, but also for international influence. The world's great powers, each with their own strategic agendas and long-term goals, were watching this unfolding situation with intense scrutiny, fully aware of the potential ramifications for the future of the region and the global order. So, what happens next? Greece's decision marks more than diplomacy, it's a turning point. One that could mend old wounds or tear open new ones. Will cooperation endure in a region long scarred by conflict? Or is this the calm before another geopolitical storm? We want to hear from you. Do you believe this alliance can last? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this cinematic deep dive gave you something to think about, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gripping insights into the shifting world order. Because in geopolitics, nothing is ever as it seems. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp.